Breaking into the music business is a unique journey for everyone, but the love of music and the culture is the connecting tie.
These are the untold stories of how Canada's most prominent Black entertainment professionals got started in an industry that never sleeps.
I'm Adrian Wallace.
And I'm Tera Beljo. Welcome to Season 3 of AMPLIFY. Navigating an industry that's often unwelcoming can be a Herculean task. When you're constantly dodging subtle and overt forms of discrimination and encounters with unconscious bias, reaching the pinnacle of success can feel like ice skating uphill. But what if these obstacles could be transformed into stepping stones? Director X, the visionary behind some of music's most iconic videos, brings a unique perspective on navigating the turbulent waters of the entertainment industry.
The game has ups and downs. Things are slow sometimes. Sometimes they're not. And it's all a bit of this too shall pass. When it's good, but this too shall pass. When it's bad, but this too shall pass. And you keep your head up and, look, for a lot of us, we don't got anything else we can do. It ain't easy out here. Look, what's the saying? Hype used to say it to me all the time. Smooth seas don't make experienced sailors.
Journalist Hilary Leblanc navigated the challenges of growing up Black in New Brunswick, but not even her mom's early preparation could fully shield her from the struggles with identity that lay ahead.
Oh, a million times yes towards adversity. I think one of the most controversial stories that I share, just because I think it could be a little bit divisive, is that my mom told me when I was really young about being called the N-word when I was 2 years old. We were walking through a mall and I was actually getting my first pair of panties to be potty trained, and Skinhead said, "Look at the cute N-word baby." And my mom told me that, it's one of my earliest memories, and I know that she just wanted me to understand that people are not going to like you. You're 2, you don't have a personality yet. There's nothing you could really hate in a 2-year-old, but you've already chosen to, use a slur towards her skin color. And I think she wanted me to know that you're going to face this throughout your whole life just because your dad is your dad and you have the skin color that you have, and that this is how it's going to be. When I was in the 10th grade, I was called a cotton picker and pushed into a wall, and I remember feeling that my high school teachers didn't know what to do and didn't do anything, and sort of admonished me for being loud about it and aggressive and sort of not understanding that I was being treated in this way and that I felt something needed to be done. And what's interesting now is I recognize that a lot of people bullied that kid. And I think that it was very much just someone speaking out because they wanted to take something out on someone else. I don't know that I believe this person is racist now, but that was definitely difficult. Also, from a community perspective, there were a lot of French-speaking Black people in New Brunswick who come from the French university that we have. And while I am Acadian and I speak Chiac French, I felt like my French wasn't good enough to connect with that community. Even going to a French university and being around them, that felt very difficult. And also being mixed felt really difficult.
For Twysted Miyake-Mugler, a trailblazer in the Canadian dance scene, standing strong in the face of adversity is second nature.
I really found the faith wasn't really in me, if that makes sense. It wasn't in myself. It was just trusting what I knew. I've always been a smart ass. When I know something, and it's also hashtag Team Aquarius, we're stubborn people. When we know something, we know something. And I can actually stand against, there's this meme where this one person screaming at a whole army. I'm that one person. I can be that person. So I've always had that about me, if that makes sense. So that it worked hand in hand. It was supposed to be me like this.
It took Hilary some time to fight her fight and find her voice as she navigated the challenges of fitting in.
I've talked about it quite a bit recently, that it feels to me like I accepted a lot of the racism to try to fit in, and if anything, I was racist to myself in advance of it all, to try to take that upper hand against white kids and to be liked. And so I was the one going up to white kids and putting their white hand between my 2 Black ones to make Oreos, to pretend we were all friends, just to feel like people liked me and there was a sense of community. And it's only now that I've realized that making myself smaller, lowering my self-esteem led to my addiction issues, led to all of these problems because I was so easily pliable. I would say yes to anything and anyone for 5 minutes of their attention. And that included letting people literally call me objects, beverages, food items that made them think my Blackness in a way was okay to exist around them. But at the time, I just felt like I was the only mixed race kid in like about 1,000, maybe one of two. And so I was like, this is existence. This is me trying to be liked by these people who didn't invite me to sleepovers. And I remember thinking one day, and I can still see the stairwell, wondering, was I not invited to that sleepover because we're on welfare, because I'm Black, because they don't like my hair, or because of something else? And genuinely not knowing why I wasn't liked at that time. And I don't think it was any of those things looking back, but I still had that insecurity in like the 4th grade.
Social entrepreneur Carla Beauvais faced 2 significant hurdles on her journey to becoming a sports journalist. Each obstacle tested her resolve and commitment to her original dream.
I realized that I was not going to be a sports journalist very soon. I was born in 1978. I graduated in 1995, and I already knew at that time that I was going to do that. So I started writing in my college newspaper. So I was covering the hockey team that we had. And after that, when I finished college, I sent all my resume, all my articles to every media outlets. And frankly, I was very good. I know that I was very good. So I didn't get any answer, nothing. And I was like, oh my God, this is very hard. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't matter. I'm going to continue. And I started to do volunteering for different team, writing their articles. And every time I was like because I was really into hockey. And then every time I was in the stadium, I got like different comments. First, it was because I was a woman. So the players, they were really like passing like misogynistic like comments. And then after, like, I was a Black woman in a very white world. So that was, and then I realized that it wasn't just, it would never be my place to be there. So I just let the dream go and I decided to do something else. But I knew clearly, like, at that time, they were not ready for Black women in that industry in Quebec.
They may not have been prepared for Carla, and that's okay, because she forged her own path. And this is precisely the advice that journalist Dalton Higgins would have given her.
Well, I think about the ancestors that came before me, right? And they're living through me, is that they had it a lot tougher. When I hear Toronto musicians, rappers, R&B singers, reggae artists, they do calypso, soca, it doesn't matter what they do, Afro beats, and they're whining, complaining. What I do is I pull them aside and I sort of remind them of the situations that their parents and foreparents had to endure in this country and elsewhere, right? They had it a lot tougher, a lot tougher, right? So enough of the whining and complaining, and we need to now, become the change we want to see, right? The Mahatma Gandhi thing. So we need to do that, right? But I'm not so much interested in outside of the obvious omnipresent, sort of ubiquitous, anti-Black racism that plagues the Black community in Canada. Outside of that, I'm not so much interested in people making excuses and what have you. Because if your mother or father or both were able to come to this country, because a lot of people I grew up with came, as immigrants. They're children of immigrants that came from another country. Most came from a developing country, right? The Caribbean, Africa, wherever, South Asia. And their parents came here with nothing. They really came. That's real struggle, right? That's real resilience. That's real struggle. Not to diminish, downplay, or dismiss the struggle that this generation are going through, but just talk to your mother or uncle what they had to do, right? People wouldn't even give them just to want to hire them, to get an apartment rented to them, once people looked out, so they had to endure so much worse, right? So I always say let's put a proper perspective to this. There's context to everything, right? But I'm not so much into the whining, complaining, not now, not in 2024 and beyond. You have a lot of tools at your disposal, access to education, things that perhaps your foreparents, grandparents, parents didn't have access to. Right, so you can do it. You know what I mean? I stay right. I like to keep the glass half full. You can do it, right? If you put in the 10,000 hours.
From subtle eye rolls to offhand comments, microaggressions are alive and well. Director X has seen how these seemingly small slights and indignities can snowball over time.
I don't think you're really coming across a lot of like that you shouldn't be doing this, Black. I mean, I think we passed that point. I think the racism you're going to encounter is a little more subtle, a little more, deep in the people who you're going to encounter, you're like, do not think they're racist at all. So you're dealing with subconscious stuff, weird. Was that common? Is that guy an asshole, or was that because that's the realm you're in? So, you got a lot of subconscious bias stuff going on. That's going to be the hurdle you hit, and though it's a lot harder to address, right? Because that takes people looking at themselves and saying, oh, maybe I do have a bias here. Maybe I am a little more aggressive, but people have to do that personal work. And pointing that out to people also is not everyone's comfortable saying that. Not everyone's comfortable hearing that type of criticism, but this is, I do feel modern racism is entering that space more often than not, especially in the arts.
We have all faced adversity, and it's a constant challenge, especially when we find ourselves in spaces where we don't yet belong. But musician and singer Marika Siewert is determined to change that.
Yeah, so as far as adversity goes, I think when you pick a career in music and film, especially in Canada, there's still not enough Black people in both of these industries. And I have been both in the artist space and the industry space, which I think has given me a little bit of an edge because I love the creative side, but I also see how much of the business industry side is important. And I'm still even finding there's just not enough Black people on the industry side to help the artist side. So the adversity will always be there. The mentors that I've looked up to, that I still look up to, even though they've done, award-winning work, are still having to hustle in their work. But I think you don't get into this for the success of it, the money of it. You get into it because you love it. And I think my dream actually is just to see our community do excellent projects, get paid well so they can just feed their families and continue to do bigger dreams. And so the adversity, it's just one of those things that's just always going to be there, because I think, too, we're always going to be in spaces that we're not in yet. And when you I think the sad thing about it is there's room for everybody, but we still have to fight our way in. And I think I'm not even in a fighting mode anymore. I'm in a, how do we do this together? How do we dream big together and elevate everybody as we go, no matter what color you are? But I do feel like there's more room for us, so.
Gail Case, Executive Director of the Black Academy, finds the strength to push through the challenges that come our way by keeping your eye on the prize.
I've always been driven. Whenever there's any obstacles in my way, I just think about my goals. What is my goal? And I'm not gonna let anyone stand in the way of my goals. And even if there's some kind of negativity or people trying to block me, I'm just like, okay, that's their problem, their issue. But I have my goal, and you're not gonna stop me from what I need to do.
When faced with adversity, many people instinctively turn to a backup plan. But for media trailblazer Brandon Gonez, it was different. He held on to his faith.
No, I don't believe in a backup plan. I don't believe in that. I knew I had other skill sets that if I needed to tap into, I could if it didn't work out. But once I set my mind to something, it's gonna get done.
Laser focused on getting it done and carving out his legacy in the ballroom scene, Twysted's determination to become a legend drives him to continually push boundaries and redefine the art of voguing.
Of course, younger knees, younger body, and a freer schedule. Let's just be honest. So I was walking all the time, especially at the time when you're making your name. Nobody else was walking from Canada, so you're only as good as your last clip, all these things. And not to mention social media was not even as prevalent as it is now, right? So you consistently had to be walking balls back then. So back then I was traveling to the States like at least 15 to 20 times a year, right? And that's in between like what, upstate New York, the Detroit's, New York cities at that time. That's how much we had to be doing it. Yeah, it's a whole lot. And this is like Greyhound times. Like, yo, do you remember Greyhound? People used to take the Greyhound to actually do shit. Like, yeah. And then now as a legend, so it took a long time for even to get my legendary status in ballroom. I got it in 2023, and I started walking balls in 2008, right? So that's like 15 years. But because after like 2010, 2011, when we started to really foster the community up here, that took a lot of my time from being able to actually participate on the floor, because my energy was now going into leadership and grooming and cultivating a community, because it wasn't about just myself. Like when I had just come in, I was trying to make a name, whatever. But then seeing like that there was a bigger need at home to like actually make the community happen, that took my energy between like 2014 to up until like 2020. Like when the pandemic hit. And then when the pandemic hit, it was like, you only have a couple more years left. Like that's when the realization hit in, and like I have a few more years left when I can actually do this thing as a dancer. So I'm trying to pick it up again, and that's what she's been doing.
Having dreams is what fuels our goals. And Marika dares to dream big.
You know, actually I was talking with my husband this morning, and I was like, I could have different dreams. Like, I love cooking. I could go be a pastry chef. You know what I think I do? I have a huge belief in things that you're called to do and that you dream to do. I really think you can dream anything and do anything. And so I've lived like that my whole life. And I think because of that, my biggest drive is actually helping other people achieve their goals and their dreams. And so it's allowed me to even have more ambition to do the things I want to do, so I can even be an influence and a mentor to people coming up behind me. And it's my kids as well. I want to teach my kids that they can do anything, and we've really raised them like that. So
we've uncovered some hard truths about unconscious biases and racism in the entertainment industry. We've heard stories of resilience, of turning pain into purpose, and of breaking down barriers that once seemed insurmountable. These conversations are not easy, but they're necessary. And they challenge us to look inward, to question our assumptions, and to actively work towards a more inclusive and equitable future. So here's a question to ponder. How can you use your own experiences with bias or discrimination as a catalyst for positive change in your own community or industry? If you have ever wondered how embracing change can transform your life, then join us for episode 4, season 3 of the AMPLIFY docuseries. We'll dive into the transformative power of change and how it can lead to unexpected growth and empowerment.